Hello, this is Derek Henry, founder of Healing the Body and creator of the Thrive online health program. And today I want to talk about one of my favorite subjects, mindset. Now, the personal development industry is definitely been booming, and that's a great thing. People are picking up all kinds of books and reading, listening to all kinds of audios and watching videos on how they can improve their mindset, and that's certainly a great undertaking and extremely important, as we're going to find out in a few minutes, because your mindset is going to largely affect what your kind of health and happiness you're going to have, during the course of your life. Now, there's one thing about reading these self-help books and learning about the mind, and a completely other in terms of actually taking the action to do it. As we know, to know and not do is really the same as not to know. That the results are exactly the same. So not only just voraciously reading these self-help books and trying to develop your mind, the most important thing is how do you put this actually into action on a consistent basis to make sure that it works out for you? Because there's certainly no shortage of things that are hurting us in our mindset. And one big one that actually sets the stage for us, and can set the stage for us, for the rest of our life if we don't reprogram ourselves, is the experiences we have between the ages of being born to about 6 years old. A lot of scientists are discovering that up to 95% of our the way we do things in a day, every day, is through our subconscious. So if you've got 95% of your actions are basically on autopilot, and we also can consider that they say that between that age of being born to 6 is when we absorb the most information. This is when we're the most easily programmed. So obviously the people in our lives that age, presumably our parents or anyone who's taking care of us, our caregivers, between those ages there's a significant uptake or download or upload, whatever you want to call it, of information. So making sure that, as a parent, that your children are experiencing an environment you want them to experience and carry on that kind of attitude towards life for the rest of their time on this planet, then we need to make sure that we're allowing them to be open, to be creative, to nourish them, rather than doing anything negative that may cause them to be contracted and not expand their horizons or their mind. So that's a big factor for us in the beginning. Now, a lot of us are adults now, and there's different ways that we can help reprogram that. We can talk about that in a second. But that's one significant factor that we can carry with us for the rest of our life if we don't try to reprogram ourselves. If you haven't had a childhood that was negative anyway, then of course that's great for you that you've had this kind of programming. Other programming that happens too is we watch a lot of mainstream media, or we watch the news. And the news can be a very negative, a lot of people call it negative news. Because you watch the newscast and most of the things they're talking about are the horrors going on in society. We rarely talk about anything good going on. If we do, it's always kind of a last minute mention. So the news can really program us to kind of see things that maybe necessarily we don't want to see in the world, but they're there right in front of our face. So we have to be careful about what we watch on TV, we watch on our phones and things like that. We also have to be careful about the kind of people that we have our company with, because like attracts like, and we need to be careful in terms of how our energy is being exposed to other people and how their energy is being exposed to us, and how the interrelation of that happens and how that can affect your mindset, because it makes a big difference in terms of who you hang around with, in terms of how your mindset is going to be. Not only that, we also have other things that are going to affect our mindset that maybe are a bit more difficult, things that we didn't know to avoid. One good example of that is artificial sweeteners. Artificial sweeteners are terrible on the neurological system and have been proven to cause neurological damage. So if you ever engaged in any diet sodas, or sometimes there's certain things like toothpaste that would have artificial sweeteners in them. There's a band of names of artificial sweeteners like aspartame, Splenda, sucralose, amino sweet. There's no shortage of artificial sweeteners out there, and you want to make sure that you steer away from those because of the neurological damage it could cause, and that will affect your mindset. Along that same line, some other toxins that can really hurt your brain capacity is heavy metals. Mercury being a big one. Now, we all know that heavy metals are out there, but where do they really come from? There's lots of different places. We talk about fish often. You can get it in some of the pesticides and herbicides that are put on our food. Probably a really big way that we have perhaps the most damage from heavy metals, generally speaking, is from dental fillings. Putting that kind of neurologically toxic chemical into our teeth into the delicate tissues of our mouth is really, when you think about it, quite asinine for that to actually happen and someone have to deal with that. It's not a one-time exposure either. Once you get those metal fillings into your teeth, as long as they stay there, you will continue due to your saliva, you're going to continue to excrete small amounts of this metal into your digestive system. And this, mercury, for example, has no place in the human body. It's completely useless, and all it does is cause chaos with whatever it touches. And in your digestive system, for example, to repel, good bacteria, probiotics, it often has an affinity due to fatty tissue. So the fatty tissues of your body, in your joints, for example, or in your brain, for example, a lot of dementia could be attributed potentially or linked to heavy metal damage that could come from those kinds of metal fillings. Also, people dealing with extreme joint issues like fibromyalgia or MS may want to look into the fact that the dental fillings that maybe they had, and if they still have them, that this could be causing some of their issues. So that's another major cause of concern for the brain. Another thing that many people don't consider is digestion. Now people are understanding the link between the gut and the brain through the vagus nerve connection, and we start to figure out that when our microbiome becomes unbalanced, that there can be a lot of brain fog. There could be a lot of different moods that we aren't necessarily generating. And so I always say, for some people, having a positive mindset may be extremely difficult for a number of different reasons. It could be because of subconscious programming, but it might also be that they're actually, the toxicities are not allowing them to use their brain properly, and there actually has to be a clearing of these toxicities out of the body before their brain can properly function. Another fad that we did have a few years back, which is kind of almost flipped completely on its head now, is the low-fat diet. I mean, a low-fat diet, or zero-fat diet, let's say, that can be very harmful, especially to, again, areas of the brain, or to the areas like the brain that are mostly made of fat and water. That can be very detrimental. It's starving the brain of the nutrients that it requires in order to function optimally. So that low-fat diet craze could also have a very significant impact on our brain. So these are just some of the things that could cause brain function to start to deteriorate. There's different places also for heavy metals, like, for example, aluminum pots or pans. That's another area that we can get a lot of heavy metals. As I mentioned before, fish. Even some vaccines have heavy metals in them, so you need to watch out for that because those are being injected directly into your system. Another maybe final thing that I'll mention that could dramatically hurt your mindset is EMFs. EMFs are a chaotic frequency that are not resonant with our own, and being that we're electrical beings and our brain uses electrical impulses, these chaotic frequencies can cause a lot of different brain-related issues. We've heard things like cell phones, for example, people using their cell phones and always having them attached to the air, how that could be a cause or initiator of brain cancer, and that's no surprise due to the fact of what EMFs actually do and the chaos that they can create. That's just one simple example of something that can create a lot of brain-related dysfunction. So there's certainly no shortage of things, and this isn't to scare you into believing that your brain has no hope. There's certainly things that you can do to remove a lot of these things out of your system. Getting dental amalgams removed from your body would be a big factor. Removing heavy metals from your body, doing that properly, that can be a little tricky, but it can be done. Taking artificial sweeteners out of your life. Another thing I failed to mention was getting fluoride out of your life. Making sure that your water is properly filtered. And if you have fluoride in your water, you definitely need to get that filtered out because that will have a direct effect. It will calcify the pineal gland. And this can cause, again, more brain-related issues. So there's a lot of things happening there. So making sure that your water is filtered will be helpful. There's some studies showing that turmeric can help release or decalcify the pineal gland and get fluoride out of your body. So there's lots of different ways we can do this. And I talk about a lot of this in the Thrive Online Health Program because there's many different ways we can go at this. There's different therapies, there's different supplements, there's different foods, there's different cleansing actions, there's different things to do to avoid some of the exposures we have to heavy metals and other toxins. There's lots of different things that you can do to ensure that your brain does not continue to be assaulted by these chemicals and these unnatural forces that are causing your brain to not work as well as it should. And not only that, there is ways to, again, detoxify our entire body in a way that our brain functions so we become much clearer. And we have much more clarity, and our forgetfulness and things like that start to subside. And this is certainly some of the things that we see inside the Thrive Online Health Program, with over 20 different chronic diseases now being alleviated or eliminated to date. And many of them brain related, such as brain fog, such as anxiety, such as depression. Some of those brain related issues are starting to see improvements on. So it's a great topic. It's something that I'm extremely passionate about, and there's many different ways that we can go at this. So I want to thank you for listening in today. Hopefully this has given you some information about how important obviously our brain function is, and how we can maybe undo some of the things that have caused our brains to deteriorate in one way or another. And if you want to get the full idea of how you can improve your brain health, not just through brain-related exercises and things directly for the brain, but also through nutrition, and learning how to balance your hormones, which has a great significant impact on your brain. Your digestion, that's, as we mentioned before, how to clear that up, to help that out, and how to do proper exercise and eliminate all the different toxins that are out there. There's lots of different ways we can do this, and your brain is a very, very important thing. Once you lose your brain health, life is not nearly as clear and as nice it is when you have a fully functional brain. So we certainly don't want that for anyone. So if you find yourself that you're starting to go down that road and you don't like it, then consider the Thrive Online Health Program. If you want to strengthen your connection either way with your brain and to be able to think clearer and better, then certainly this program will only help you increase your brain power. So thanks again. This is Derek Henry, founder of Healing the Body and creator of the Thrive Online Health Program, helping you to not just survive, but thrive.